Hello, everyone. It's time for the BFG. Here we go. And um, we are like just about half done, I believe. Yeah. So we're flying through this novel. Make sure you're letting me know if you're enjoying it. And I believe yesterday you were asked to tell me what your favorite chapter or event part of the novel was. So if you didn't do that yesterday, please do that today. I'll be waiting and I'll be looking. Here we go. I'm going to change to the document camera and we'll get reading. Funny story. Before we get going, I should have flipped the page before I left off yesterday because there was only 3/4 of a page left on that chapter. But that's okay. Here we go. Make sure you guys can see it too. The nastier the dream, the angrier it is getting when it is in prison, the BFG said. It is the same as with the wild animals. If an animal is very fierce and you is putting it in a cage, it will make a tremendous rumpeldumpus. If it is a nice animal like a crocatootaloo or a fogle-frump, it will sit quietly. Dreams is exactly the same. This one is a nasty, fierce, bog-rotting nightmare. Just look at him splashing himself against the glass. It's quite frightening, Sophie cried. I would be hating to get this one inside me on a darksome night, the BFG said. So would I, Sophie said. The BFG started putting the bottles back into the suitcase. Is that all? Sophie asked. Are we going? I is so upset by this troggle humping, bog thumping, grob switcher, the BFG said, that I is not wishing to go on. Dream catching is finished for today. Soon Sophie was back in the waistcoat pocket, and the BFG was racing home as fast as he could go. When at last they emerged out of the mist and came again on to the hot yellow wasteland, all the other giants were sprawled out on the ground, fast asleep. And the next chapter is called A Troggle Humper for the Flesh Lump Eater. They's always having filthy winks before they go scumpering off to hunt human beings in the evening, the BFG said. He stopped for a few moments to let Sophie have a better look. Giants is only sleeping every now and then, he said, not nearly as much as human beings. Human beings is crazy for sleeping. Is it ever occurring to you that a human being who is filthy is spending about 20 years sleeping fast? I must admit that never occurred to me, Sophie said. You should allow it to occur to you, the BFG said. Imagine it, please. This human being who says he is filthy has been fast asleep for 20 years and is not even knowing where he is, not even doing anything, not even thinking. It's a funny thought, Sophie said. Exactly, the BFG said. So what I is trying to explain to you is that a human being who says he is filthy is not filthy. He is only thirsty. What about me? Sophie said. I am 8. You is not 8 at all, the BFG said. Human being babies and little chidlers is spending half their time sleeping. So you is only 4. I'm 8, Sophie said. You may think you is 8, the BFG said, but you has only spent 4 years of your life with your little eyes open. You is only 4, and please stop higgling me. Titchy little snapper whippers like you should not be higgling around with us old sage and onions who is hundreds of years more than you. How much do giants sleep? Sophie asked. They is never wasting much time snoozling, the BFG said. 2 or 3 hours is enough. When do you sleep? Sophie asked. Even less, the BFG answered. I is sleeping only once in a blue baboon. Sophie, peeping out from her pocket, examined the 9 sleeping giants. They looked even more grotesque now than they were awake. Than when they were awake. Sprawled out across the yellow plain, they covered an area about the size of a football field. Most of them were lying on their backs with their enormous mouths wide open, and they were snoring like foghorns. The noise was awful. Suddenly the BFG gave a jump in the air. By gum, Frog, he cried. I is just having the most wopsy whiffling idea. What? Sophie said. Wait, he cried. Hold your horse feathers. Keep your skirt on. Just as you wait to see what I am going to bring about. He galloped off fast to his cave with Sophie hanging on tight to the rim of the pocket. He rolled back the stone. He entered the cave. He was very excited. He was moving quickly. You stay where you is in my pocket, Huggy Bee, he said. We is doing this lovely bit of buckswashling both together. He laid aside the dream-catching net, but hung on to the suitcase. He ran across to the other side of the cave and grabbed the long trumpet thing, the one he had been carrying when Sophie had first seen him in the village. With the suitcase in one hand and the trumpet in the other, he dashed out of the cave. What is he up to now? Sophie wondered. Peep your head up good, the BFG said. Then you will get a fine winkle of what is going on. When the BFG came near to the sleeping giants, he slowed his pace. He began moving softly. He crept on his toes towards the ugly brutes. They were still snoring loudly. They looked repulsive, filthy, diabolical. The BFG tiptoed around them. He went past the gizzard gulper, the blood bottler, the meat dripper, and the child chewer. Then he stopped. He had reached the flesh lump eater. He pointed at him. Then he looked down at Sophie and gave her a big wink. He knelt on the ground and very quietly he opened the suitcase. He took out of it the glass jar containing the terrible, nightmarish Trogglehumper. At that point, Sophie guessed what was going to happen next. Ouch, she thought. That could be rather dangerous. She crouched lower in the pocket so that only the top of her head and her eyes were showing. She wanted to be ready to duck out of sight very fast should anything go wrong. They were about 10 feet away from the flesh lump eater's face. And that is it for today, guys and ladies. Stay tuned for tomorrow's installment. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.